So today we'll discuss how to use LinkedIn as a job search tool. As you may already know, LinkedIn is a growing professional network. It has just a little over 500 million users and about 250 million monthly users, active users. So plenty of people you could network with. The network continues to grow. And a lot of folks do understand that this is certainly a platform that you could use for searching, looking up different job opportunities, but it's really, really useful in terms of developing your network and building your network. So with about, a little bit over 500 million users, you have plenty of opportunity to make some strong connections. With that in mind, today I'll talk about the importance of making connections and then networking through LinkedIn as a way to help facilitate your job search. So first, it's important to understand that job searching is a process that takes time. I can't emphasize this enough. I've worked with so many students who recognize this once they actually start the process. So just make sure you really give yourself enough time. And this is really just to complete the full process of the job search. So you'll need time to research information, to do things like making connections on LinkedIn, which we'll get into a little bit later, but it really is helpful in terms of leveraging your candidacy as you apply for jobs. You'll need time to prepare your application document. So that could be a resume, a cover letter or introduction letter, and then also just time to fill out online applications. I know you guys may have seen this before, but sometimes when you apply for jobs, you'll have to upload a resume or cover letter or any other documents to whatever applicant tracking system they have. And then in addition to uploading those documents, you'll have to manually fill in your information and some experience that's still presented on your resume. So those things take time, and so you want to give yourself that time to complete it. So it's important to come up with a timeline, and we're here to help you develop that timeline, just to keep in mind when you'd like to retain that job, what your goals are in this process. So you can certainly work with a career advisor in our office, and who can help you basically develop that timeline, okay? So moving on, one of the first steps in this process is identifying what exactly you're looking for. So you should have a good understanding about what it is you're good at, what your skills are, your strengths, what your interests are, and then of course, any values or simply what preferences you have in terms of your work environment and other areas. So of course you can consult a career advisor to discuss those things, or we can help you discover what those things are. We often suggest that you take our career exploration assessment, and that assessment really talks a lot about your personality, and it applies it to your general interests, any of your professional interests, different career options for you. So our assessment actually lists off different job types, and so it certainly leads to other options for you. So it's something that we offer in our office that usually helps guide students through their process of job searching and discovering what they really like and want. Okay. So the next step in this process, once you've actually discovered these things and you have a good handle on your interests, your skills, the things you'd like to do, it's really important to do some research next. So you want to utilize online resources to learn about different career paths that are of course related to your interests or even your major that you studied. So you can do this easily with a few online resources. I'm going to hop on to Handshake in a little bit, but you can easily go to a company's website, and they should have a lot of information about their history, their mission, their vision, their customers or clients in terms of who they're serving, and then just general information about their work. So it should be really easy to jump onto a company's website and get that information. If you're familiar with Handshake, Handshake has a resource library, and we have PDF copies of any handouts that we have, and instructional videos that we've recorded and posted to Handshake as well. I guess I can pause here and say this video will also be up on Handshake, and any other virtual videos we've done in the summer should be there as well too. So Handshake resource library is definitely helpful. I'm going to hop on to Handshake in a bit and just show you how it works. And then of course, LinkedIn company pages. So obviously if you can apply for jobs through LinkedIn, a lot of companies have a LinkedIn page. And so you can easily go to their page and see just posts that they've made, which gives you information about what's going on at their company, any updates, Obviously, they can post jobs there. We'll jump into that later. But definitely on their page, you should be able to retain a lot of information. Later on, when we go to LinkedIn, I'll actually show you, I'm sorry about that. I'll actually show you how to look up information about the employees at that company. And that's going to really help you target your search and figure out if there's folks you can connect with who may be John Carroll alum. Okay, so we'll jump into that a little bit later. For now, I do want to hop on Handshake just to show you where the resource library exists. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And we'll get on Handshake. Okay. And so you've probably heard us or seen a lot of emails and just promotions about Handshake. We push Handshake a lot. This is certainly a place where you can find different opportunities for yourself, so that's really important. But it's also a place where you have a profile that different alum, current students, and recruiters can definitely see your information. So it's really important to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you again, and that way you can see Handshake. Okay. So on Handshake, this is also something, again, that we can help you with in terms of developing your profile. But right on Handshake on the dashboard here, you'll see Career Center. And so if you select Career Center, it should give you 3 different options. So you'll see appointments, resources, and survey. So just while we're here, to schedule an appointment with a career advisor, you can go just to this appointments tab here, and you're able to set up a time and day that you'd like to meet with someone. We also have our names listed there, so if you've met with someone before and want to meet with that same person, you'll be able to identify who that is. But right here for resources, it's going to take you to the resource library. And as I mentioned, we have a list of PDF copies of any handouts we have in our office, and also instructional videos. So there's plenty of information here for you to use. I'm actually going to scroll down and show you where the LinkedIn checklist is. So just like Handshake, if you start to search for jobs, even make connections through Handshake, but that's an option as well. You want to have your profile well developed, and certainly the same goes for LinkedIn. So for your LinkedIn profile, I'll go through a little bit of that later on, but we have a LinkedIn checklist here, which is very easy to follow. It goes through every section of LinkedIn and tells you how to develop each part of your LinkedIn page. A good starting place really is to have your resume reviewed. A lot of the experience and information on your LinkedIn page, on your Handshake profile page, will be information from your resume. So once that's in good shape, it'll be really easy for you to complete your profiles online. So make sure you take a look at this. Some other resources that we'll have here is what can I do with this major? And it's really good in terms of just giving you some basic information about what area you're studying in terms of what career options there are, where you should get started. So this is definitely a very useful tool to explore. A lot of our resources here, like what can I do with this major, you have full access to, full free access to, as long as you go to the resource library on Handshake and use our link. So you should be able to easily get access to that. Again, if you have questions about how to use Handshake, I know we have a video that's posted on Handshake right now in this resource library, but you can also, of course, schedule an appointment with an advisor and we can go over your profile with you and just really talk to you about how to navigate this platform as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back into the presentation here. So moving forward, after you do this research, you start to look up some company information. You go to the company pages on LinkedIn, directly on their company sites. It's useful to have a good idea about what type of connections you want to make, and then how to really initiate conversation once you make those connections, whether it be on LinkedIn or other platforms like Handshake. You want to have a good idea of how to initiate contact with some professionals or recruiters to help you throughout your job search. So later in this presentation, I'll walk you through the steps to making those connections, but now I just want to talk about how to actually initiate that conversation. So With a basic free LinkedIn account, you can actually send messages directly to anyone that you're connected to on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn identifies those people as your first degree connections. So through your LinkedIn profile, you should be able to see all the folks you're connected with, and you can select those folks and just send simply a direct message to them. If you're not yet connected with someone, you actually have the ability to still send a message. The message is sent when you send a request to connect. The only difference is that there's a character count for that message. So you can simply select the request to connect to someone and then send a short message just introducing yourself so they know who you are and know your purpose of connecting with them. It may also be useful to you, depending on where you are in your search, in your professional career, what type of experience you've had so far in job searching, to take advantage of the LinkedIn Premium feature here. So with Premium Access, you're able to use what's called in-mail credits. And so what that means is you can communicate with someone who you're not connected with just yet. And there's no limited restriction on how many characters that message could be, and you can really have a back and forth conversation. And so there's other features of LinkedIn Premium as well. I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later, but if you find that that's something that you want to take advantage of or just explore a little bit more, I do know they have, I think on LinkedIn, just like a 30-day free trial just for you to test out. But they also have plenty of information about the benefits of using that feature. So your goal in this contact and reaching out and using your connections on LinkedIn is to send a short message and introduce yourself so you can get to a point where you can set up a time to talk to that person over the phone, okay? And so what we call that conversation is an informational interview. And this is really important in terms of facilitating your job search, these intentional connections that you'll make in conversations that you have. So an informational interview is a scheduled conversation between you and a professional who has agreed to give you information on their career experience and provide you with helpful advice during your search. So the one thing you want to keep in mind is when you set up these conversations, it's an exchange of information. So typically for an informational interview, you'll come with a list of questions that you'll ask someone, and you're probably spending just about 10 to maybe 20 minutes on the phone with someone. You'll have prepared a list of questions you want to ask them, and sure, you're going to be asking those questions. They're going to give you all this information, but you also want to share information about yourself so that they can give you the proper advice and they have a good idea about what you're in search for and how they can really help. So I think it's important just to point out what to expect from this conversation and what you should learn. So the first thing is you'll gain insight on real life experiences in the field. So of course, we mentioned earlier that you want to do some research, use the company website, use our resources on Handshake, but to really make this a more practical understanding in terms of what the day-to-day life looks like in this field or for a particular job, having a conversation will really give you a real life perspective and insight on what that looks like. Next, you'll learn how to get started in your desired career field. So obviously, if you're talking to a professional who's been in the field for a while, they can give you some suggestions in terms of how they started, whether or not that worked for them or not, or what they would have done differently. And that's really going to help you figure out, where should I be starting in my career? This is especially true if you talk to someone who does some recruiting or obviously hires in their office or is at least a part of that process. They are the folks who are searching for talent, searching for those folks, and so they know what they're looking for. So they can certainly give you some advice of what type of experience they expect someone to have and where's a good starting place for that. Next, you'll learn effective search strategies to find opportunities. So of course, they can give you advice of where to look for those job opportunities, how to use even LinkedIn a little bit differently, how to make those intentional connections at the time that you're doing this job search. Next, you'll discover career fields that you didn't know existed. So as many markets are continuing to grow, there's no way that we'll always know, what's out there for us without doing the research, without having conversations with folks. So as you have a conversation, you may learn of you may learn of other positions and opportunities out there that may spark your interest. You'll also gain knowledge on how to target your resume. So this is something that we drive home. It's really important in that application process when you're applying for a job that you target your resume as much as possible. And what that means is you're using that job posting, all those details, the experience, the skills that they talk about, to really target your resume and display your skills on your resume so they can see that you have the ability, the skills, and the experience for the job that you're applying to. At some point in your conversation, this may be like a second conversation, you may ask that they take a look at your resume, or if they're willing to take a look at your resume so they can give you some feedback. A lot of times this may come up naturally in the very first conversation. They may actually initiate that and say, why don't you send me over your resume? But certainly just keep in mind that you want to be, I guess, very strategic about what you're asking of them. And so this is why if it doesn't come up in the first conversation, or maybe you don't feel as comfortable asking just yet because you're just getting to know this person, the second conversation may be more appropriate to ask for someone to review your resume and take a look at it. Finally, the ultimate goal of all this is to help you develop your professional network. So these are folks that you're going to keep in touch with. You're going to update them on how things are going. You want to tell them if their advice worked for you or what's been going on so far as you started your search. Believe me, they want to know what's happening. They want to know your progress and what's going on, and they want to know if their advice really worked. So make sure you certainly follow up with them and let them know. I think at some point too, these are folks who you want to keep in your network because it's a great benefit to, in the future, reconnect with them. You know, if you have, again, more questions about your professional trajectory, these are folks that you definitely want to keep in contact with. So as I mentioned earlier, when you start to make connections, when you start to initiate this conversation and get someone on the phone, you do want to have a list of questions prepared. So we're going to go through a few example questions here. So I have about 5 questions here. The first one is, what are the responsibilities and duties of your position? What advice would you give someone planning to enter this type of work? What kinds of changes are taking place in this field or at your company? What is your educational background? And then how did you get started? I'm sorry, how did you get where you are today? Excuse me. So I particularly like the third question, what kinds of changes are taking place in this field or at your company? Especially in a time like now, you may hear a lot of folks say what their work environment looks like and how that's made an effect or impact on their work. So for a lot of recent grads or folks who are making some type of career change that I've talked to recently, there's been companies who have, after offering someone a job, will say at this point, you know, they've postponed their start date, or they've said, you know, you're going to work remotely until further notice. So you want to know how this company is being impacted by what's going on right now, especially if this is a place where you're actively seeking employment. So this is obviously, you know, at a time that you've done your research, you see that there's a position posted there. Maybe you've gone on LinkedIn and identified someone who works there that you want to talk to, an alum of John Carroll perhaps, and you want to ask, you know, how's things going right now? What plans are in mind if they're able to give you that information, okay? You'll develop other questions on your own, of course, after you do your research. You'll come up with a list of questions, things that you really want to ask this person. These are just a few examples to get you started. You obviously want to ask the person about their career trajectory and where they started at to where they're at now. And I think that they will really give you some advice and be transparent in their experience. So as you're conducting your informational interview, it's really important as you go through this process to take an organized approach. So you may have several conversations with folks and you want to track your conversation. So if you use a calendar to do that, I know I feel most organized when I can just post something on my calendar. It reminds me of something that's going on. And it also just allows me to go back and review that if you know, I need to update anything or if I need to remind myself of when something took place. So use a calendar if you can. During your informational interview, you'll also be able to take notes. So I always remind people that you want to make sure you're staying engaged in the conversation as you're taking notes. So you do have to multitask a little bit. Keep record of those conversations. So again, as you may follow up with these folks, you want to make sure you keep track of those types of conversations. So when you have the conversation, and then you may want to attach some of your notes to wherever you're tracking that information at. And as I kind of mentioned earlier and multiple times, the follow-up is very important. Keeping in touch with them is very important. So make sure you are updating those folks about how things are going for you. Can I take any questions you may have right now? I just want to pause before I jump into the details of LinkedIn. Okay. And feel free to drop any questions in the chat below. I'm more than happy to answer those questions. I'm going to switch over to LinkedIn in just a bit, but I do want to just let you know what we're going to review. Okay. So I'm going to hop onto LinkedIn. I'll do a brief overview of the profile information. I'll also talk about settings and how to customize your URL. We'll go through how to identify different alum, both through the Alumni feature and the JCU Connect. We'll talk about how to do some company research. And then we'll also talk about how to actively search for jobs on LinkedIn and using that easy apply feature. And then finally, I'll mention a few more things just about LinkedIn Premium. And I kind of mentioned this earlier with the feature of messaging, but again, LinkedIn has that information online. So I'll just briefly mention a few more features of that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can hop over to LinkedIn. And again, feel free to ask any questions as I'm going through this, or I can take a pause and answer any questions you may have. So I'm going to use my colleague's LinkedIn page. Her name is Tane Dallas. She is a career advisor that you can certainly meet with. So I'm going to use her profile just so we can go through a few examples and you could look at the profile and see some of the John Carroll related information that she has. So I'm just going to click on her name here. So as I mentioned, we have a LinkedIn checklist on Handshake, and that makes it really easy to follow to update your information here. So please check that out a little bit later in our Handshake resource library. So I just want to point out a few things in terms of your profile here. And as I mentioned earlier, it's important that you try to complete your profile as much as you can before you start making connections with people. You want them to be able to identify you, especially with a picture here, a profile picture. So make sure you work on that. And again, that's something that a career advisor can go over with you at some point. So you'll see here that she has an image of John Carroll's campus. A lot of John Carroll students, alum, have some sort of image from campus, and it really personalizes the profile, so it's a very good idea. You'll see that she has her professional photo here. I heard a lot of people who came to me to meet with me about their profiles and will say, well, I don't have an updated professional photo. A lot of people may still have like a senior picture from high school and those types of things. And you want to make sure you have an updated image here. So a very easy, simple, and an appropriate way to do this is to have someone at home, a friend, a sibling, a parent, take a picture of you with a camera phone, or you can do it from your laptop, your computer, if you have a camera there. It's just a headshot, so it should be very simple to take. The important things here is that someone can easily recognize you. Your picture is well zoomed in to see your face, and then you don't have too many things in the background that's too distracting. So it's a very easy thing to do while you're at home until you can get a professional photo taken. We, throughout the year, offer different opportunities to take professional photos, so you can certainly look for that in the future. You'll see down below here that there is a profile strength bar here, and it really shows you the progress that you've made on your profile. So make sure you keep track of that. It's a good way to understand how much further you have to go in terms of developing your profile. So moving forward, you'll have a about section, which is really a professional summary. It gives you a chance to just talk a little bit about what you're currently doing. So here, if you're a recent graduate, it's putting that you recently graduated from John Carroll University. A lot of people like to include what their major was, what they studied. And then, of course, if you are currently seeking employment, this is a good place to put it, to say that you're seeking job opportunities in a few areas and be able to list those areas, okay? Down below, you'll see the dashboard and you'll see how many profile views you've had, any articles, and of course, if you've been searched by anyone. So those are good insights just to keep in mind as you're doing your job search. I know through the LinkedIn Premium feature that it shows you even more details and insights about that. So something to certainly explore if you'd like. And as I mentioned before, for profiles like LinkedIn or profiles on Handshake, it's pretty much displaying the same information that's on your resume. So if you're in a good place with your resume, your profiles will be even easier to develop. A lot of times what we suggest you do is after developing your resume, you can take those bullet statements and put them onto your LinkedIn or Handshake page. It is just important to make sure you're concise, but once you meet with someone, have a resume review, you should be in good shape to use that information on your online profiles. So you have experience here. So this would be like your work experience, education information. And I know by the time that you graduate, we don't necessarily suggest that you put your high school information on your resume. But for a place like LinkedIn where you can connect to alum from your high school, that would still be a good idea. You'll see that Tane's currently in the clinical mental health counseling program, so she's included that piece as well. So just make sure, you know, if you're pursuing a graduate program or anything like that, that all that information is listed there. You can include volunteer experience, of course. And what we've done for volunteer experience that we'll suggest is doing the same thing as your experience up top. So putting just a few bullet statements highlighting what you did in those roles or what your skills are. There is a designated area for your skills. So you could list skills here that your folks that you're connected to can endorse. And LinkedIn has a new feature, and I think it's just like a few months old, where you can actually take a skill quiz, and this could be on PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, and it'll basically take you through a brief assessment, and if you pass it, it'll put it in this list of skills here that you already have. So certainly something to explore. So this isn't a place where we always tell students, you know, if you don't have the skills listed, or you know, recruiters and employers who see your page, if they don't see these certain skills listed, then it's going to make a bad impression on, you know, your candidacy or how they view your skills. So it's not that it makes that significant of a difference, but because it's a section here that you do have a chance to display your skills, we certainly recommend doing that. And then finally, you have an interest section. So these would be all the groups, professional organizations, companies that she follows. So you definitely want to have this a few pages followed. This is also where it becomes very strategic for you to look up different companies, professional networks that you have interest in that have a lot to do with your career interests or your background. And like other social media sites, what happens is anything that's posted in these groups, anything that's posted at the company's websites will appear in your news feed. And so for you to be able to see that would be definitely useful for you. Any questions so far on just the brief profile overview? And again, please feel free to use the chat feature. So I'm going to move on and scroll back to the top here. On the right side of the profile, you'll see this edit public profile and URL option. Once your LinkedIn profile is complete, a lot of folks will add it to their resume, and I think that's really helpful sometimes. Employers are likely to search for you online and see what type of online presence you have. And so to make it easy, you can add your LinkedIn URL to your resume. So I'm actually going to go in here and just talk through a few settings. So once you click that, it's going to open up a new tab for you. And so on the settings page, it basically shows you your public profile view. So how others will view your profile, okay? So you can scroll down and see everything that any recruiter or employer or student or alum can see on her page. This is the public profile view. You'll see that she can customize the URL here. So this is certainly something you want to update. When you first sign on to LinkedIn or join LinkedIn, it'll give you a URL. It'll mostly include your name, but also a few numbers behind your name. And so you want to remove those numbers and just try to include your first and last name there. It's not unlikely that I've had students, alum, say, you know, I'm having trouble customizing my URL because someone else has the same name as me, right? And so you can do things like she did. She added a dash here. You can underscore it. A lot of people, especially if you have a parent who has your same name, if you're a junior, they'll add that suffix or add detail for like a middle initial or something that makes you more distinctive so people can find your page a little bit better. So make sure you certainly go in and customize that URL. Other features here, other settings here, you'll see that it gives you the option to make your profile public so that it's visible to anyone that's on LinkedIn. So it's important that you pay attention to this here. As you start to develop your profile and add information, I actually suggest turning the visibility off. Every time you seem to add information to your profile, some of the information you're adding does pop up as notification for the folks that you're connected with. So I would say if you've already started a LinkedIn page, but it's not yet developed to the point where it's almost complete, I would turn this visibility off as you start to update it. And as soon as you're done, you can turn that visibility back on. But as you can see in the right side here, it shows you what's being displayed on the profile. Okay. So I'm going to hop back over to the other page here. And I want to get into more of the features on LinkedIn and how you could really use this to facilitate your job search. So I want to talk about how to identify alum and employers using LinkedIn and the JCU Connect page here. So I'm actually going to scroll down on her profile, and Tane follows John Carroll, but I believe I can get to John Carroll's LinkedIn page just from here. So you can type that name in the search bar. You can type a company name in the search bar to find them. I'm just going to go directly from her profile page. So I'll click here. And it'll take you to John Carroll's LinkedIn page. So in this left menu here, you'll see a home, an about section, jobs, alum, and ads. So I'm going to click this alumni feature here, this alumni button. And so it tells you how many members are on LinkedIn that are alum of John Carroll, okay? And we use this feature a lot, this alumni feature a lot, and this is what's really gonna help you identify alum who you'd wanna connect with based on their professional career, based on the areas that they may have studied at John Carroll or the companies that they work at. And this is really a good way to target your search so you're not just doing a very generic search for jobs. If you see that there's an alum at a company that works in a role that you have interest in or has had a role that you have interest in, it's helpful to really filter through this feature and find those folks. And those are the folks that you'll make connections with. So just to go over a little bit about the features, you can go here and change the start and end year, and this determines which alum, or you can even do current students if you leave it at the current year, that will come up in your list. You can search by keywords here or job title. You can, of course, search by where people live. So certainly a great way to identify folks, if you're looking within the area that you live in, you definitely can search by location here. If you have an idea for what types of places you want to search within, the names of different companies, you can add that here. And then on the next page, it allows you to filter by what they do, so a general professional area, or what they studied at John Carroll. So actually, when you use either one of these filters, the previous page here will automatically filter, and you'll see these numbers change a bit for you. On the third page, it helps you filter by skills. So as I mentioned, that skills list on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile, it'll help you filter by those skills if they have those listed. And then this shows how you're connected. As I mentioned earlier, a first degree connection are folks who you're already connected with, okay? And it goes up from there. So you can certainly use this to filter as well, okay? Once you go through this list, your list of people down below will automatically filter for you, and then you can explore their pages a little bit more. One thing to keep in mind, if you do filter by any keywords or job titles that are more than one word, I like to use a quotation marks around those so that you're not getting you know, those two words split in two different posts or two different people's profiles. So again, this is a very good feature to use on LinkedIn and helps you really filter your search in a way that targets the types of alum that you want to connect with, okay? The other useful thing, like I said before, if you change the year range here, you can get current students. And so you may have students who are currently at John Carroll who've done an internship of some sort or part-time work at a company. And so it's not a bad idea to look at their profile as well, because that will help you identify a company that maybe has had a good John Carroll employee base. So also a good idea to take a look at that. Any questions about this feature? Okay. So I'm going to actually jump back to Tane's page here. And I'm going to scroll down in her interest area and actually find the JCU Connect page. And it's going to sit right here. Awesome. So JCU Connect is a page on LinkedIn with JCU alumni who are members, current students, employers, recruiters, and you'll see at the top here, there's almost about 4,000 members of this group. So this is very, very useful for information that's delivered to John Carroll, the John Carroll community. So you'll see things that are targeted for John Carroll specifically. This also is a good group to follow so you can connect with alum or employers or recruiters of John Carroll. And so I would certainly suggest kind of exploring this page. Once you join or once you ask to join the page, this is something that we actually check daily. So once you send your request in, it should be pretty smooth and quick and easy for you to get access to this. But there's a lot of great members of this group here, and this is continuing to grow every day. So it gives you even more people to connect with. But the information that you'll see in the feed here is information posted by our Alumni Relations Office. You'll see information posted by alum or employers and recruiters. And again, it's very John Carroll specific. So I would say definitely take advantage of the fact that you can really connect to John Carroll folks or folks who are connected to our university. And that's definitely going to, again, help you throughout your search. The next thing I want to do is go to a company page, and I'm actually going to search a company who is very familiar with John Carroll, who's hired a lot of John Carroll folks, even in internships during the school year. So I'm going to actually search up here Sherwin-Williams. And I want to show you this so you have a good idea about how to do some company research on LinkedIn or find some information about companies on LinkedIn. So you'll see that you have the option to follow a company page. And again, if you're interested, I think what would really look good for the company to know is that you're keeping up with the information that they are putting out. So they'll actually see this on your profile in that interest section. If they do some more exploring on your page, they'll see that you already followed the company page, and it really does make a good impression in terms of how interested you are. So you'll be able to do that. And then you'll see that menu that resembles what you saw on John Carroll's LinkedIn page as well. So you can see jobs here, and then you can see people, videos, just basic information about the company. They post different information probably on a weekly basis. And so that really helps you in terms of getting more familiar with this company and the type of opportunities they offer. So you can, of course, use this jobs tab here to see what jobs they currently have posted. I always encourage people, in addition to looking at jobs that are posted on LinkedIn, go directly to the company's website as well. So it just helps in terms of covering your bases and making sure you see all the same information. What I do want to show you here is how to target alum as well, going directly to a company page. So this looks very similar to what you saw on John Carroll's LinkedIn page. You can filter by area, you can filter by where people studied, you can filter by what they do, what they studied, and then of course the same two filters here with what they're skilled at and then how you're connected. So what I would suggest to you is to find John Carroll alum. You can look at their list here and scroll down and you'll see John Carroll sits right here. And it looks like they've had at least 201 employees, right? And so again, you can add even more filters here if you want to find folks who worked at Sherwin-Williams who have the same academic background as you can filter by that. But now you'll see a list of those 201 folks who attended John Carroll. And these are people you can certainly network with. Looking in their list here, you can obviously see their job title, but you definitely want to click into their page and look at their resume basically and see, is this a person that I think I want to connect with based on their experience, based on their time at the company? And so that really helps you, again, target the right folks to connect to. So definitely a great feature to use as you're going through your job search. As we're talking about this jobs feature here, I do want to show you how you can search for jobs on LinkedIn. So this briefcase here that says jobs, once you click on that, it allows you to search for positions, and the filters are very similar to things that you'll see on other job platforms. It'll also help you track any applications. So if you apply for jobs, it'll have a list of jobs that you've applied to or jobs that you've saved. You could filter by location, obviously, by industry, by areas that you have interest in, and then you'll get a full list of jobs that match those filters. So I want to go to one example here, just so you can see how this looks. But you'll see that the jobs that it suggests for Tane here are based off of the information in her profile. So we say this often with Handshake as well, that you'll get out of it what you put into it. So the more information and profile information that you add, the more you'll be able to see content that's based off of that information. So Handshake and LinkedIn both curate content that are related to your interests, your background. So make sure you really do work on that profile and try to get it to a very completed place. So I'm just going to select an example here. So this is a position at Youre. So you'll see that they have information about what Youre is. It'll talk about the program. It'll give you information about the level of the position, the type of employment it is, so full-time, part-time, internship, and then it'll give you other information about the company. So what industry is it in? What's the area of focus here? And then it also shows you information about how well matched you are with this particular position. Okay, again, information that they pull from your profile. Okay. So it should also list information about the job itself, or just other information they want you to know about the company. And once after you take a look at this job and maybe you decide this sounds very interesting, you can go ahead and click apply here. There's two different features with the apply button here. So you can apply, and most likely this is going to lead you to their website and to apply through their website. But if you see easy apply here, that basically means that you'll be able to apply for this position without going to a separate page. So, and this is just based on the company and how they want to receive applicants. So you'll see easy apply. It'll have a few screens that'll ask you a few questions. You're going to be able to upload your resume, and then your application will be completed solely on LinkedIn and not on the company's website. So I just want to make you aware of those two options there. So this is pretty intuitive. It's similar to many other job platforms. It doesn't, include anything that's would be unfamiliar to you. But you certainly want to use this feature to search for jobs. And, again, my strategy with this is to really identify those alum who work at these companies and try to make connections with those folks and talk to them about their experience at that company. And that really helps you to make a very informed decision about how you want to move forward, or if this is truly an option for you in terms of your job search. So you'll see here that it talks about how many alum have worked there and how many connections you have with those folks. So it's definitely, again, helping you target those folks to have a conversation with. So lastly, I just wanted to address a few things about the LinkedIn Premium option. You'll see in the top right corner, you get the premium a month for free. So if you're interested, it's definitely something you can explore. One added feature that it gives you in terms of the job search platform, it'll allow you to see different analytics or insights about the other applicants. So it'll show you, based off of the 25 applicants that apply for this position, you're in the top 10%. Or it'll give you the level of it'll say like entry level or senior level in terms of the types of applicants who have applied. So it really allows you to gain a perspective about your competition or folks who have also applied for this job. But also just keep in mind that as this job can be posted on the company's website or other job platforms, there's more than one group of folks who are applying for positions that you're also applying to. Okay, so, and that's why we always drive home the importance of making connections, because that's really the way to leverage your candidacy here, is to really make connections with folks who work there. If you do your research enough, you may find someone who's in very close contact with the search committee for the position you're applying to, or the actual recruiter, right? And so reaching out to that person, having a conversation, to introduce yourself, to get more information, to establish that connection is what's really going to push you beyond what other folks are doing as they're applying for this job. Okay. So I want to leave time for questions, and I'm going to just hop back over to my my presentation here. So are there any questions about LinkedIn or any of the other information I shared?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
So when you're reaching out to these people on LinkedIn, what kind of language would you recommend using?
Absolutely. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it. I was just like how to start the conversation, what kind of
Absolutely.
things you should say.
So a good way to start the conversation is when you send that first message, you're introducing who you are. So, and you're also letting them know of your connection. So say if it's a JCU alum, you can mention that you recently graduated from John Carroll University, or that you're a current student at John Carroll University. You want to let them know why you're reaching out. So of course, after you've done your research, maybe it's because you see they work at Sherwin-Williams and you're interested in working at that company, right? So that needs to be very brief. But you do need to mention why you're making that connection. And of course, to set up a time to talk over the phone, you want to make that clear that you're reaching out to set up some time for you two to talk by phone for just about 10 to 15 minutes. And then you're asking them their availability, right? So that message shouldn't be too long. You want to get to the point, but you also want to make sure you include those details so they're aware of who you are, why you've made the connection, and how you want to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Good question, though. And we have, so I have some examples that, once you meet with a career advisor, if you want to reconnect, we can definitely help you write that message and create that message so you don't feel like you have to struggle with language on your own. And we also have a few examples we can share with you in terms of how to get that conversation started. So once you meet with us, we can certainly help you through that. Any other questions for now? Okay. So we always like to present you with the next step so you know how to move forward from here. So I've mentioned this over and over again, but certainly set up an appointment with an advisor. We can certainly help you through your job search wherever you are in that process. If you're starting with a resume review, or if you found a job that you're going to apply to or plan to apply to, we can help you with your application documents. We can, of course, help you with trying to establish some connection with someone in the company. If you want to do some research, if you want to conduct that informational interview, and then just general advice about that job search. I mentioned earlier that we do have a career assessment that we deliver. And so if you're interested in something like that to help you get you started, please let us know, schedule that appointment. And then, of course, in terms of exploring resources on Handshake, we can walk you through that. But if you haven't gotten into Handshake too much yet, it's really not as difficult to navigate. So please feel free to explore on your own. That's something that we can also discuss with you. But certainly take a look at that resources tab there, because we have so many topics, career-related topics that we cover, and so many instructional videos and handouts, resources that will be useful to you. And lastly, if you're ready to go ahead and start from listening to the information I gave you today, of course, you can always keep your eyes open and start that search. Use those filters accordingly. And then, of course, follow up with us so we can give you some more advice. You'll see the QR code to the right side here. This actually works on the computer. So if you want to go ahead and open up your camera and take a picture of this, or just hover over the image here, it'll take you right to Handshake. Handshake does have a phone app. We mostly encourage you to use Handshake like on the computer if you're updating information on your profile and things like that. If you're doing like job searches, you could see those things on your Handshake profile, but or on your mobile app for Handshake, but you definitely don't want to be completing job applications and things like that on your mobile device. So, but for now, this definitely takes you to Handshake if you want to hover over it with your camera. So as I mentioned, this presentation will be posted to Handshake in that resource library, so you can always go back to it if you want to go review some of the things I mentioned today. And then this is just some information about our office. We are obviously doing virtual appointments. You can set up an appointment by phone or video. We'll use Zoom to conduct your video appointment, but we have plenty of time, plenty of career advisors who are ready to meet with you. If you have trouble scheduling that appointment on Handshake, you can always email us at careerservices@jcu.edu, or you can give us a call and we'll walk you through the steps to schedule your appointment.